We have to make sure that the politicians are held accountable.
Every administration had the ability to put a ban on asbestos.
When it comes to asbestos, it really is about power, money, and politics.
And now, next we have Marika Townsend here from across the pond, as they say. Welcome.
Hello. Well, first of all, I'd love to thank Linda for inviting me to share our work of LASAG and our support group in England. And as Linda knows, prior to retiring 2 years ago, I was a lung cancer nurse specialist, and I thought I'd spend my time looking after the grandchildren and lunching with friends. And then I was approached to see whether or not I'd like to help start this support group, LASAG, which is the London Asbestos Support Awareness Group. Well, I was always passionate as a lung cancer nurse specialist, and I suppose in latter years I was a bit despondent with the NHS. So to actually have the opportunity to go out there and help people in a different way and have the luxury of time really appealed to me. So here I am. It was interesting while I was looking at this that, you know, the number of people who die each year, approximately 2,500, compared to 144 of other work-related deaths. And then you compare it to the amount of road traffic accidents and deaths, 1,700. It's just criminal. There are 118 counties in the UK, and we cover 4 of them. And we've seen 177 new clients since the charity started. But that works out to approximately 5%, which is quite a lot when you consider there's only 3 of us working part-time. I do 2 days a week, Yvonne does 2 days a week, and my colleague Alison does 3, and we're very busy. So how does it work? Well, a nurse contacts LASAG on behalf of the patient because they've seen them during diagnosis, and they offer them our support and what we can do for them. Or the patient is just given our leaflet to go away, think about it, and they phone our free phone helpline. We always do home visits. We do sometimes hospital visits, and on rare occasions I have been to the hospice, but generally we see patients in their home. We normally see them within 24, or speak to them within 24 to 48 hours of receiving a phone call, and explain how we can help them, and we normally see them within a week. So what do we do when we get there? Well, we find out what they need. What support do they have? I think, you know, my previous experience as a lung cancer nurse specialist is so useful in assessing any home situation. And it's far better to see people in their own home than it is to see them in a hospital room. So what are their immediate concerns and their needs? Our first visit is often the first time they've had an opportunity to discuss their diagnosis. And that's so important. When you're sat, and I know from when I was a nurse specialist, when you're sat in a clinic room with somebody, you have a limited amount of time that you can speak to them about what's happening. I have the luxury of time. My first visit is probably 2 hours because they want to share their story. They understand that I no longer have a clinical role, but my knowledge can prove invaluable when discussing their possible treatment, procedures they may be having. You know, I still have some knowledge left in my brain cells, so that's useful. The other thing that's really useful for me is are they aware of all the services they can access? Well, I have a brilliant knowledge of the local area. I work within the area that I used to work. I know all the lung cancer nurse specialists, I know the oncologists, I know the respiratory physicians, I know the surgeons in the main hospitals. And that gives them confidence in what I'm able to help them with. And obviously the working relationships I have with other healthcare professionals are truly invaluable. Now, one of the things that happens in the UK is that patients who have an industrial-related injury are entitled to many different benefits. Now, I'm sure it's the same over here in the States, that if you're trying to fill in a form, it's a minefield. It's normally about 20 pages thick. There's more than one form that you can fill in, you can see from that list. And when you've just been given a diagnosis as devastating as mesothelioma, the last thing you want to do is fill in a form. Well, let me tell you, I can practically do them in my sleep now. So I'm filling in all of their forms for them, but at the same time, I am looking around their house. I am chatting to them about their family. I'm finding out who is there to support them. What do they have in the house? How suitable is it for long-term care? Are they going to need some adaptations in the house? Do they need a shower? Do they need a stair lift? Are they going to need some help in the home to do their housework? Are they going to need a gardener? Will they be able to drive the car? All of those things I'm assessing in that first visit. And the one thing that people often ask me about, obviously, is civil compensation. What can they do? Well, we're very lucky in that we have links with some fantastic law firms in our charity. And the reason that we like them so much is they only act for the victims of mesothelioma. They do not act for corporate clients, and there is no fee at all to the client, ever. So all of the compensation they have is theirs. In addition to that, I have to say, they care as much as I do about these people. Now, we just don't go away and leave them. I mean, the important thing about this service is that we follow them up. Now, I don't plan to be intrusive, but it really is important that we maintain contact with them, phone calls, home visits, whatever they want from us. Now, interestingly, going back to the benefits, they can actually have almost immediately about £1,000 a month extra, which does help with everything they might need. Useful for practicalities and not always replacing wages, but helpful. So one of the things that we discussed with them, which can be quite difficult, and they've not always had that conversation at home, is the use of, or the role of the coroner for mesothelioma. Because we know that when somebody dies from mesothelioma, the coroner has to be informed in the UK. And they can't arrange a funeral until such time the coroner has given them permission. And that's a terrible thing for any relative to find out when somebody's just died and they haven't been informed of it. We also have very close links with the GPs, the general practitioners in the UK. So we let them know that we've actually seen these people, and we remind them that they have to inform the coroner when somebody's died. And they're not, strangely, they're not all aware that that's the case, and are very grateful for the information. So we still maintain links. We listen again. The support carries on. But it's not just about one-to-one support that's important. We also have group support. Now, if you look very closely, you'll see Mavis on that picture. And that was our very first support group that we started in Kent in July last year. Since then, we have 5 more. So 2 of them are mesothelioma, and 3 of them are a mix of lung and mesothelioma, because we also know that lung cancer patients kind of had a lot of asbestos exposure. And I've lost my place now, that's sad, isn't it? But this was taken at Christmas, and it's really just to prove to people the value of support. And it's not about having a support group that's all doom and gloom. People have a very positive attitude to these. And this chap here, Frank, I told him I was showing his photograph. Him and his wife, Jan, did a rock and roll demonstration at our Christmas mesothelioma support group. And the day before that picture, he was having chemotherapy. And he always says that I can't dance every dance anymore, but I can dance one, and I can sit down, recover my breath, and I'll go for it again. Because he said life is for living. And that's what our job is about. It's about enabling people to live every day that they have. They're just a few patient feedbacks, really, about how positive they do find the group and how it's benefited them. And all of these people, interestingly, on that list, they are still with us. Our longest survivor in our group is 10 years. And she says she likes to come because she likes to give people hope. And I think that's so important in this illness. We also have an Action Mesothelioma Day, where actually I met Linda last year. And it's probably not dissimilar to what's happening tomorrow here. But it's held nationwide every year. And it's on the first Friday in July, and it's for families, friends, and healthcare professionals. And it's the one important thing, it's a memorial to those who have sadly died, but also it's a day of information and networking so that families as well as professionals can get together to find out more about this devastating disease. And cornflowers have been adopted by LASAG in remembrance of past victims and as a symbol of hope for all present and future sufferers. And just in case you're wondering why you have those very fancy Raise the Roof posters on your desk, it's because LASAG are a charity. We're fully funded by charitable donations. And this is one of our big events that we're having in June with the help of some very friendly sponsors to raise money for our charity. In addition to that, my husband and I, being completely mad, are walking the whole length of the Pilgrim's Way in England, which is 134 miles, and we're going to do that in May. So we keep on going because we want to keep this very valuable support going around the southeast of England. Thank you.